So for the last few years, I've been making these Steam Mac sale game recommendation videos. And for the most part, they're pretty much the same list of games with the addition of one or two Mac releases that seem to come out every year. However, this year feels a little bit different and there is a renewed sense that something has definitely improved for the better with Mac gaming. Firstly, there are far more Mac ports which have been released or announced, with many coming out at the end of the year. And secondly, with the release of Apple's Game Porting Toolkit, we can now run the Windows versions of many DirectX 11 and 12 games. Not only does this include big Windows heavy hitters like Cyberpunk 2077 or Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, but if you're feeling impatient and you want to play some of these natively optimized Mac games first, you can actually run many of them through the Game Porting Toolkit as well. So today what we're going to be doing is recommending 10 games which are newly playable on the Apple Silicon Mac in the Steam Summer Sale. 5 of them are going to be natively optimized for the Apple Silicon Mac, and 5 of them are going to be playable through the Game Porting Toolkit. So first up is No Man's Sky, which gets a 50% discount at £24.99, and this is basically the most high-profile AAA macOS release on Apple Silicon Macs this year. It's very well optimized whether you're using the base M1 chip or something as powerful as the M2 Ultra. It's natively optimized for ARM64, and it also showcases the use of Metal 3 and Metal FX upscaling. And despite the fact that this is a game first released on Windows in 2016, when No Man's Sky had its Mac debut on Steam earlier this year, it's still listed at the full price of $49.99. However, now that we have the 50% discount on the summer Steam sale, this game is really worth checking out, especially if you like exploration and survival games. Next up is the game Arma 3, and yes, this is the same Arma 3 that came out back in 2012, which now has a surprise Mac release. So there aren't a lot of first-person shooters available for the Mac, and Arma 3 isn't necessarily what most Mac gamers are going to be looking for when they think of first-person shooter. It really errs more to the side of realism. It's an open-world first-person military sim basically, and fortunately the Mac port seems to run very well. So when you launch Arma 3 on Steam, you get a couple of options. You can play as the first option, which uses the Intel Rosetta 2 build, which is compatible with the BattleEye anti-cheat, or you can also use the native ARM Apple Silicon optimized version, which is listed as experimental. However, here you won't be able to play any of the anti-cheat enabled servers online. So Arma 3 comes in at 75% off at £5.99, and whilst this is an older game, it's still a great price for what's basically a new Mac port. So next up is Firmament. So this is a first-person adventure game from Sign Worlds, the same company that made the original Myst. So this is a natively optimized Apple Silicon Mac game. And because this is such a recent release, it isn't on discount on Steam at the moment. However, if you are looking to scratch that adventure gaming itch, you can't go wrong with a remake of the classic Myst from 2021, and it's a loving recreation of a classic game. If you've played this game before, then don't worry, there is a puzzle randomizer, and the gameplay still holds up to this day. So this game works great on any Apple Silicon hardware, including the base M1 chip. Make sure to check it out at 35% off on the Steam sale. So next up is quirky indie title Dave the Diver. And this is definitely a very unique game. It features Dave, who scuba dives into the ocean with his trusty harpoon, catching individual fish so that he can serve them up in his sushi restaurant. So I don't want to spoil too much about this game. This is a simple premise that actually escalates quite a lot. There are some crazy mini games that happen later in the game. And because this is a very recent release, this is only at a 10% discount, but it's really worth checking out. So next we're going to be talking about Resident Evil on Mac. So Resident Evil Village was a huge Mac release last year. However, you can't buy the Mac version of this game on Steam. You're going to have to be using the App Store instead. And finally, one of the main complaints about this version is that if you want to play it on Mac, you're going to need the App Store version, even if you own the game already on Steam. And Mac App Store games tend to not go on sale particularly often, which is a shame because on Steam itself, it gets a pretty huge 50% discount. However, if you're looking for that modern Resident Evil experience at a discount price, then you might consider Resident Evil 7, its predecessor. So there is no Mac port of this game, at least not yet. So if you want to play it on a Mac, then you're going to be using the Windows version of the game, and this is all playable thanks to the latest versions of Crossover, CX Patcher, and Game Porting Toolkit, which recently introduced upgrades to GStreamer and Media Foundation, which allows the in-game cutscenes to work on games like Resident Evil 7 and also the remake of Resident Evil 2. If you want to find out how to do this, then make sure to click on the link in the description for my video tutorial. So Resident Evil 7 runs surprisingly well on the Mac, and it's a testament to how powerful Game Porting Toolkit Toolkit is as a game translation layer. Even though these games aren't optimized for Apple Silicon hardware, I would seriously consider picking these up in a Steam sale so that you can play them on your Mac. So next up, we're going to be continuing the theme of horror by looking at the game Layers of Fear. So this got a recent release earlier this year, and it's a remake of the 2016 game Layers of Fear 1 and Layers of Fear 2. This has been natively optimized for the Apple Silicon Mac. However, because it's a very recent release, this hasn't been put on sale yet. However, you can get a 10% discount if you follow the link in the description for my Games Planet affiliate link, and you'll be able to get the Mac version for 10% off. So Layers of Fear is a very visually impressive game on the Mac. It's one of the first that runs on Unreal Engine 5, and it also benefits tremendously from its use of Metal 3 and Metal FX upscaling. So definitely check this out, especially if you're in the mood for walking simulator, horror, adventure type gaming. However, if you are looking for a bit of a deeper discount than just 10%, then you might seriously consider another title from the same developer, Bloober, and that is The Medium. So in fact, this game is actually meant to be coming to the Apple Silicon Mac later this year. It was featured at WWDC, and it's one of Apple's showcase games, demonstrating how well the Game Porting Toolkit's translation layer works, and how much more performance you could get if you natively optimized your game to the Apple Silicon Mac hardware. But if you want to play this on your Mac sooner, you can play this right now using Game Porting Toolkit. As a DirectX 12 game, this runs surprisingly well on Apple Silicon hardware. Obviously, we're missing out on all of the native ARM metal optimizations, and we could probably get more than double the current performance once the native ARM port is released. So one of the main benefits is the fact that the Medium is now on sale at Steam at 44% off at £22.39. So this is well worth getting, and there's no guarantee that the Mac version is going to release on Steam. However, I'd say it's quite likely because Bloober released the Mac port of Layers of Fear on Steam, so I'd expect the Medium to appear here in the future as well. So one game whose Mac release is definitely coming to Steam is the game Stray. So this has a 25% discount and it's being offered at £18.74. And if you look at the Stray Steam discussion, the developer has said that the game will be coming to Steam as well. But if you're interested, you can actually play this game right now using Game Porting Toolkit. The performance isn't perfect with the occasional stutter, however adding Game Porting Toolkit via CX Patcher and Crossover makes this game a lot more playable than it used to run before, and it's definitely worth picking up at 25% off. So next up is Grid Legends. So this was announced at last year's WWDC. We haven't had much information about when this is going to get released on Mac, and if we look at the Grid Legends SteamDB page, we can see that the supported systems include Windows and macOS. So it looks like the macOS versions will come to Steam at some point in the future. So we're all eagerly waiting for the Mac port of this game being developed by Feral Interactive. There aren't that many racing games compatible for Macs, so this is going to be a very welcome addition. So Grid Legends is currently on sale at 80% off at $9.99. Unfortunately, it won't work through Game Porting Toolkit at the moment. However, it might be worth picking up the Steam version now in preparation for its release later this year. And lastly, we're going to be talking about Hideo Kojima, who is the creator of Metal Gear Solid and whose game Death Stranding made headlines this year because it's going to get a Mac release. However, you might be waiting quite some time because this is only going to get a release in December this year. And unfortunately, we can't play this on Game Porting Toolkit right now. But one game that we can play through Game Porting Toolkit is the Windows version of Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain. So this is Hideo Kojima's last game before leaving Konami and starting work on the Death Stranding series. If you're looking for Kojima's unique brand of open world gameplay, then Metal Gear Solid 5 is going to tide you over until Death Stranding comes out on Mac. So technically this isn't part of the Steam sale, it's still being sold at full price at $24.99. However, you can pick up a Steam key for this game at 20% off, so check the top of this video description for my affiliate link. So anyway, these are my Mac game recommendations for the Steam Summer Sale 2023. If you think that anything else is really worth getting, then please make sure to leave a comment. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.